So many people call and tell me they have their grandma's recipe, their dad's barbecue, their one so's product, and they'd like to go to market with it. And how do I get started? And they think they have this recipe with just a few ingredients, and you just put it in a kettle and pack away and go to market, and everybody wins. Unfortunately, it isn't that easy. So, what makes yours different? Developing your formula and getting it to a safe place, that's easy. Are you ready to really go out there and push?
Hello, everyone. I am Jeffrey Stern, your host of today's Ohio Fun Report with Perry Stancato, founder and CEO of Signature Sauces and third-generation operator of the beloved Cleveland institution, Stancatos Italian Restaurant. This conversation with Perry explores the entrepreneurial journey of someone who grew up in the family restaurant, from standing on a milk crate as a kid making waffles for Sunday on brunch, to running Stancatos today while simultaneously building Signature Sauces into a premier national food manufacturing company based here in Ohio. Perry founded Signature Sauces in 2005 with a simple idea: to bottle his own family's legendary red sauce after customers kept asking for it. What started as a way to serve Stancatos' loyal patrons quickly evolved into something much larger. Perry discovered a real market opportunity in food service, helping other restaurants scale their secret sauces. Today, Signature Sauces has become the quiet force behind the scenes of the food industry that helps restaurants make the product that has made them famous. Serving clients from local Ohio favorites to national brands like Bob Evans, Momofuku, Benihana, Barrio, and many others. In our conversation today, Perry shares the challenges of stewarding Stancatos across the generations, the journey of getting Signature Sauces off the ground, and the resilience it took to keep it going, ultimately scaling it to where it is today with tens of millions in sales and a 100,000 plus square foot production and distribution facility here in Ohio. We talk about the different lessons learned from retail versus food service and what Perry is most proud of. Seeing team members who started as dishwashers grow into leaders in his businesses, and knowing that his work helped thousands of diners enjoy meals every day. So with that, please enjoy this fun and insightful conversation with Perry Stancato. Lay of the Land is brought to you and is proudly sponsored by Roundstone Insurance. Headquartered in Rocky River, Ohio, Roundstone shares Lay of the Land's same passion for bold ideas and lasting impact from our community's entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders. Since 2005, Roundstone has pioneered a self-funded captive health insurance model that delivers robust savings for small and medium-sized businesses. They are part of the solution to rising healthcare costs, helping employers offer affordable, high-quality care while driving job creation and economic growth throughout Northeast Ohio. Like many of the voices featured on Lay of the Land, including Roundstone's founder and CEO Mike Schroeder, Roundstone believes entrepreneurship, innovation, and community to be the cornerstones of progress. To learn more about how Roundstone is transforming employee health benefits by empowering employers to save thousands in per employee per year healthcare costs, please visit roundstoneinsurance.com. Roundstone Insurance, built for entrepreneurs, backed by innovation, committed to Cleveland.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ohio Fund Report, a show dedicated to raising the collective ambition of Ohio. Before we dive in, just a quick note. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Nothing you hear today should be taken as investment advice, a recommendation, or an offer to buy or sell any securities. Please note that the Ohio Fund and its affiliates may maintain investments in the companies discussed. Any forward-looking statements you hear today are based on current expectations and may change. Please do your own research and consult with your advisors before making any investment decisions. For more information on the Ohio Fund, please visit theohiofund.com.
I would love to start with the multi-generational context of the story behind Stancatos, going back to the late 1930s and Grandpa Stancato selling coffee and donuts, out of a push cart to local workers. Knowing how far the institution of Stancatos has come today and that you've been able to carry the entrepreneurial torch into a new venture on a national stage, like Signature Sauces, which we'll talk about. But when you reflect to your childhood and growing up in the family restaurant and business, did you always imagine that you'd kind of follow in those footsteps and take the business to where it is today?
No, I always enjoyed being at the restaurant, and My dad had his brothers as partners, and it was a big family business, and his advice was go to college and run.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did fall in love with the business, and I did go to culinary school and never imagined I was gonna come back home. I had dreams and aspirations to do work out of the country, maybe a cruise ship, and work for other restaurant, entrepreneurs, really. The thought of coming home was never on my mind, and unfortunately, my father, got ill and passed away at a young age, and there I was, with my ma, and, I had to just jump in, so taking over the family business was not on my radar.
What was it like growing up in the family business? What did you love about it?
It's interesting because there was many businesses. There was the food trucks, as you mentioned, and at the time, the restaurant was actually the smallest part of their business. They had vending machines, a coffee service, offsite catering where we did halls and stuff around, Cleveland, and I did all of them. As a young kid, I was 13 years old, I was washing the coffee jugs for the trucks, washing the food trucks after school. And then as I got older, working in the restaurant. But I can remember standing on a milk crate making waffles for, the brunches, the Sunday brunches. So I've been in and out of that restaurant my whole life. And, in March, it'll be 55 years. And, yeah.
How have you seen the business evolve? If you were to kind of outline the chapters of it, take us through the stages of it.
Yeah, like anything, things change, and it's always been a red sauce. I call it a red sauce joint. It's always been a red
Yeah.
sauce. And the key is to just stay in your lane of that. Don't drift off, and make sure you know who you are, because the community knows. So you can't do too much change.
Yeah. Well, we'll certainly unpack the red sauce joint as inspiration for signature sauces. And I know you and I have talked before about Stancatos really as a Cleveland institution for many decades, how you approach taking care of that legacy while also making it your own, and the challenges that come with trying to change what has worked over time.
Yeah, because things evolve. Each generation likes different things. Today, call out words and food is very important. People don't just like a plain Jane meal. They want some excitement. They want to hear about Calabrian chilies and how truffles became mainstay in today's menu and environment is pretty wild. So for us, we even though we're that red sauce joint, how do we still keep it with bold flavors and staying on trend a little bit, where yet at the same time not veering off too far left where we lose our base. And sometimes that base has you are going to lose them, right? Because we've been around for generations, and we see people that are three different generations in between right now as our customer base. So we are going to
Wow.
lose some. We are going to lose some, right? We got to make sure the ones that we're grooming right now, when we see them at their high school dance, that we're doing their baby shower next, and from the baby shower and anniversary party. So we have to stay relevant to each generation.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty remarkable to be a business that gets to work with families over the course of their generations, let alone your own family. So I'd love to talk about signature sauces. I love the story about how it started, that literally you began bottling your family's recipe because customers kept asking for it, this legendary red sauce. So I'd love if you could just share a bit about how that idea grew into the business that it is today.
So this was my mom's idea. We were doing a lot of drop off catering in 2005, where drop off catering really didn't not too many people knew what drop off catering was. Today everybody does drop off catering. She wanted to put our pasta sauce in our gift baskets that were doing a lot of, corporate gift baskets, and she says, "Hey, why do we have, like, the palmy imported Italian tomatoes? Why don't we how do we get our sauce in?" in the jars. So that's really how this all started. And we started doing research and realized that it was very hard for a small startup to have a manufacturer make the product, and it became even more difficult with the steps, meaning our pasta sauce is roasted with pork neck bones and caramelized onions and bloomed garlic, and then it's simmered for 4 hours, and then it's strained, and you have this. Some would call it a Sunday sauce, some would call it Sunday gravy. Either way, for us, it's our premier sauce. And we couldn't find a manufacturer to do that for us. It was like pulling teeth. The feedback I got, all the reasons why we couldn't do it, right? So that's how the idea started. And then from there, it just bloomed. I found a manufacturer that was going to help us. I had to push them, and push them. And finally, I worked with that manufacturer for about 5 years. And one day he approached me and said, "Hey, I'm going to get out of this. I'm either going to sell it or I'm going to sell it to you." I say the rest is history. We ended up purchasing the plant and kept it. It was in Canton, Ohio. So it was about an hour and a half, hour and 15-minute drive each day, each way. In 2008, we decided we moved it to Independence.
At that point in time, when you decided to acquire the business, did you have a sense that you would begin to help other people manufacture their own sauces, or was the vision at that point still just how do we own this process of building our own sauce at scale?
I had zero idea. No, zero idea. The thought process was when he decided he was going to sell it, I told my mom, I said, "Listen, if he sells it, we're in trouble. I couldn't find somebody to do this for us. And then if he sells it, at the time we started using it as a commissary for our restaurant. So our kettles we got rid of, and it simplified our operation beyond belief. We were able to do more business. And no, we had no idea what we were doing. So it was our commissary. So when I moved it to Independence, we built it as just a red pasta sauce manufacturer, nothing else. Shelf stable, no other really ingredients outside of what you would use for pasta sauces. We did that for a few years,
Yeah.
and that was a struggle. It's hard to get that type of customer, a startup customer, into the building. There's so many hoops, and then you're stuck with we moved from a 4,000 square foot little plant to 30,000 square feet. And, at that time, we're like, okay, what are we going to do throughout the week? What are we going to do with this facility? So we struggled with the retail for a few years before we realized we could start working with some other restaurants, really, food service. Maybe that's a better avenue. So we picked up a couple customers, and from there, our business model completely changed. We just realized quickly that our passion was more with restaurants than it was with retailers. Besides it being not as cutthroat, the they have there's a passion there because I speak the language, right? I'm dealing with either chefs or operators that all have the same passion as I do from the restaurant business. So when a restaurateur guest leaves, there's some there's instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
It's the same way with us when we start making their sauce and it's consistent every time. It's a good feeling. It's a proud moment that you've created a partnership together that works for both of us. So that's how that happened. That's how we moved to Independence, and it's right on Pleasant Valley. So it's 3 miles from the restaurant.
You mentioned to me before this kind of stark difference between the cutthroat retail market and the more maybe collaborative food service world, despite all being grounded in food ultimately. What are some of those other differences between those two worlds that kind of surprised you as you made the transition from one to the other?
Yeah, Anybody can make a not anybody. You can create a great product.
Yeah.
That's only the first part of it. The financing of getting onto store shelves, the marketing to have people grab it, the important some people don't realize the importance of the labels, your most important part of the business. If you don't get consumers to grab that label and take it home and try it, it can go nowhere. And that's one piece of it, right? So I just felt like the rest for me, working with the restaurants were much easier. We spoke the same language. The person buying for the grocery stores doesn't really care about your history, doesn't really care about what's in the bottle. All they're there to do is to order products and make the margin.
Yeah. There's a lived empathy there too with yourself and them as operators. You've mentioned to me before that ultimately the business of signature sauces is kind of like the secret sauce is making the sauce that makes other people famous,
Yeah,
in helping them figure out their signature dishes.
yeah, because whether it's a Mexican concept that, the salsa or the queso, that's what made them famous. It's not the corn shell, it's not maybe the meat, but it's really the sauce. It's like that with the barbecue sauce joint. It's like that with an Italian joint, Indian cuisine, any cuisine. The sauce typically is what makes them famous. It's the flavor that everybody remembers.
Yeah.
We play a crucial role in this. It's very important that it comes out consistent every single batch.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear some of the stories behind the sauces. And ultimately, you scaled from a few local partnerships to serving nationwide brands like, ones that people would know, Bob Evans, Momofuku, Benihana. What does it look like working with those restaurants to develop their signature products? And how do you go about, landing those kinds of larger clients, and what did it mean for your company's growth at the time?
Yeah, so the key thing a lot of people ask, do they bring a recipe? No, most of them don't have recipes, and if they do, we have to reverse engineer them. Whether it's they've never had it made for them or it's coming from another manufacturer. Maybe the manufacturer that they were working with for some reason, it's just not working out any longer. So when we get involved, we have a development team and we can't bring in everybody's branded items, say tomatoes or vinegars, or we have to we have to make the product with our ingredients, So we have science that we work with as far as pH and bricks and all this stuff that make a product consistent and safe. So we develop incredible products for these chains. What's it look like? They call us and we get busy. We tell them, show us a gold standard, and how do we make it better? How do we create more shelf life without using preservatives? How do we make things more stable? How do we make it stick better on a tortilla chip? How do we make it where it doesn't evaporate, water doesn't get evaporated with the pasta sauce? There's a lot of things we do, but it's all based around science at the end. That's why it's like it's chef driven, but it's really science driven as well.
Right. I mean, you imagine at the quantity, the scale at which you're producing these big batches of sauce, there is like a blending of culinary art and food science, but you have to control for it at scale. I mean, how would you outline what it takes to ensure that making a sauce, in a 100-gallon kettle still tastes like the one that you perfected in a small pot? What should more people understand about what this process actually looks like?
Well, unfortunately, the scale up it does not always work out. Sometimes your first two batches could go down the drain, or if the customer's okay and it's not branded, we could send it to the food bank. But yes, there is some scale up issues. There could be viscosity, like thickness issues. There could be when you're working with peppers, different types of peppers like habaneros or cayenne. It could be too hot, right? The heat ramped up. The vinegars sometimes could be a tad stronger. when you go to that scale up. So there is some challenge, but we do test runs, and typically we will make a 4 pound bench sample for a customer to approve, and from there we go to a 3,000 pound test run. And yeah, that is there's a lot of dollars in the beginning that go to waste, unfortunately, because you do have to make sure that the scale up is correct. Typically, once you go from 3,000 pounds, though, you can go to six, seven, 8,000 pounds with no problem.
How would you describe signature sauces today? What does the business look like, and how do you think about it?
Today, we have partners of all types, right? And the key for us is how do we become somebody that they just want to be, we're completely integrated with their back of the house. Meaning, we don't only just want to do your barbecue sauce. We want to make your coleslaw dressing, your mac and cheese sauce, your dessert, could be banana pudding. We want to make sure that when they think of, hey, we should be having this made, well, let's just call signature and see what we can do. And that's what our success is really based on. And for us, as far as our growth goes, we're adding other equipment for different packages so we can be that partner.
How has the entrepreneurial journey itself been, from solving your own problem ultimately to servicing as many restaurants as you do, thousands and thousands of people ultimately that are eating the food that comes out the other side? How have you scaled the business itself, and just kind of take us through your own entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I mean, looking back now, I can't even begin to tell you how crazy the journey really has been. And that starts off with just purchasing raw ingredients. I mean, the whole thing has evolved, and honestly, our products, when I first started, it was kind of throw it in a kettle, mix it, cook it, and pack it. And that's what the customer kind of wanted, right? And I started off with much simpler items, wing sauces and barbecues, and like I said, some pasta sauces, right? That's how it kind of started evolving into what it's become today. And then as I started taking on some bigger customers, they started requesting different ingredients. And then before you know it, we started sourcing better ingredients. We went from a 1 leaf balsamic to a 2 leaf balsamic. And then we went from a 2 leaf to importing balsamic. And it's the same thing with a lot of our raw ingredients, from cheeses to, we import Italian tomatoes over here now, olive oils, and we do that for a lot of different cuisines. Indian cuisine has got works with a lot of specific spices, and how you go about cooking those spices in the kettle. It's it's an art. So our business has evolved so much looking back that it's in fact, we're getting ready to rebrand, and instead of signature sauces, we're getting ready to, we're going to launch signature kettle crafted. And we really don't need to. We're blessed with the phone. Typically they call us
Yeah.
when there's so, but we are changing because we do so many soups and dressings and all these different things now. What started off as a sauce manufacturer has really evolved.
So what is the vision today? How would you articulate it?
The vision today is that we want to be the most trusted partner that a chef or an operator can call and say, "Hey, we think we're going to have the best manufacturer for our business," right? Somebody that isn't going to be switching out raw ingredients on them. Somebody that's not going to be cheating the formula to put more margin at the bottom line. Somebody that's not going to not treat it like their own, right? So for me, these partners, these restaurateurs are some of them I've been with since I started with, right? So, and you've seen some real growth, and the keys to grow with them too. Some of them are growing at such a speed, right? A lot going on in the fast casual business right now, where these QSRs are growing quickly, 10, 15 locations a year. So the key for us is we got to make sure we're growing with them as well.
Yeah. What does that look like?
As far as the building this year, so the building, when I purchased it, we had 30,000 square feet. We're in 72,000 square feet today, and we also have a offsite distribution center that's 50,000 square feet. When I started, we used to be a just-in-time manufacturer. COVID has changed that, and so has our customer. So today, since we are shipping just in about every state, very important for us to make sure that distributors have the product, whether there's one location in that state or there's 20 locations. So we produce enough to forecast for their 60, 90-day period and make sure the distributors are always ready, no surprises. So I never thought about a distribution center. I never thought about a plant being 70,000 square feet. And today I can't believe I'm looking for another facility for another plant.
Yeah. What are you most excited about? What do you find yourself looking forward to?
That the first 5 years I don't count. I don't know if I count the first 10 years either some days, right? It took that long to become sometimes not an overnight success, but it took a long time and a lot of struggles and sleepless nights to get to this point. So today it's how do we keep growing and not mess it up?
What do you feel kept you going during those 10 years?
Just the drive, you see it, but you want to be better. So how do we be better and what do we have to do to get there? Don't lose curiosity, right? How do we strive to get the best product? And that's whether it's mine or the person we're making it for. And it's not easy, right? There's a lot that go into it.
What do you feel you've learned about entrepreneurship from running and managing a restaurant? And which of those lessons do you feel are most transferable?
Well, I'll tell you, there's the restaurant. There's nothing as hard as running a restaurant. Nothing. And I think everybody should work in a restaurant at least once in their life, even if it's 30 days. But there's a lot of details in the restaurant business, right? From the time you touch the door handle entering to the time you leave. And there's a lot of people that could unfortunately mess up that guest experience. Not only the food, we always say a good server can fix a bad meal. A bad server, good food can't fix a bad server. And so there's a lot of details with the restaurant from start to finish. The manufacturing, once you get it, you know what you're forecasting, you know what you're purchasing, you're leading a team that understands the playbook. The restaurant, even though there's the playbook, there's a lot of ways it can go off the rails.
There's the human element. It's harder to control for.
You got it. Yep. And then as far as the plant, even we still make our mistakes. The key is not to make sure that our consumer never sees that, right? Like, hey, it never leaves the plant. Yeah, we made a mistake or wrong label, different in smoke, wrong smoke went into the product. I could tell you many things that go wrong, there too. But the key is to fix it, and there's a root cause analysis that goes into that, and you don't have that in the restaurant too often. But I still enjoy the restaurant a lot still.
Yeah. What brings you the most joy from the restaurant experience?
The customers, for sure. Working with the staff to see it, especially when it's busy, when it's busy and you see that well-oiled machine just running and people are happy, leaving happy, coming in. I mean, it's a great feeling.
How do you like to balance your time between all the different initiatives?
That's a tough one. It depends on what's really going on, right? Or where I have to be and where I want to be. But I'm at the restaurant every weekend, typically a couple hours during the week. It's probably just a check-in, but most of my time is spent at the plant now, Monday through Friday.
How has being based here in Ohio influenced your journey? Obviously, familial history here, and you've collaborated with Ohio brands, even Ohio State University for the tailgate sauce line. What do you feel is special about building a food business in Ohio?
Well, look, there are many, many, many small food incubators here. Cleveland, especially, has such a wonderful food scene, and especially at farmers markets and small startups. It's really amazing how many. And I try and talk people out of it. I go, don't do it. But no, it's incredible. And then as far as Columbus goes, look, Columbus is if you want to know if a restaurant's going to make it, Columbus is where you open your first restaurant and see where it goes. And I'm very blessed that Columbus is here with our business for the fact that it's a 2 hour drive, and 90% of our not 90, 80% of our customers are out of Columbus. Any chain restaurant, we're working with them. So that's very helpful for us in our growth.
How do you think about success?
Yeah. So this is interesting. So I think of success as I have a few team members that started with me as dishwashers, three of them to be exact, four of them to be exact. Started with me when I was just shy of getting out of college, and they've started as dishwashers, then went to kitchen managers, and one of them is the GM at the restaurant today. It'll be 25 years he'll be with us. I have two at the plant, VP of Ops and our business manager, and one's our logistics manager. Seeing the growth of all of us has really been probably my success today, knowing that we all started from this community Italian restaurant. They started as kids and have now taken the reins, really. If I disappeared, I think it would run still today, without me.
Yeah. Do you think about succession and legacy in the way that you've carried the torch in your family, about what legacy and succession even means to you?
No, I have not, truthfully. To me, it's still we're not done, and there is no succession right now. We still have a lot to grow here, and let's keep rolling our sleeves up and doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you've mentioned this desire to improve, this kind of iterative, how do you get better at what we're doing kind of mindset. And I know it's kind of permeated all aspects of the business to a degree where, I mean, there's even like software that you are working on to kind of ameliorate the business. What has it been like to start working on technologies and innovations from within to better the business?
Yeah, so that software is called Cater Bites. It is a software that my GM that I mentioned to you has been with us for 25 years. Him, we have both started to develop it, and we found a need for a catering software that works with fast casual or single independent restaurants that there's nothing on the market like it. So, and when I say that, it's interesting because the software business is something, again, I know nothing about. I love what it does for us, and I love the tools that it provides for us to be better operators. But I've never launched a software. So that is we hope to start showing it to customers sometime in the second quarter of next year.
What's a sauce that you're most proud of?
Well, you can't do that. Other people, I don't want somebody to get mad at me. Wait, you're putting me on. That's not fair. I love them all. I love
You
them
love them
all.
all.
Yeah. I would
I
tell you,
love it.
we for us, when restaurateurs call us and say, hey, here's our formula, here's what we do, here's the headaches we're having. we make this much mac and cheese, but we have this much leftover sauce at the end of the night. Or I'd like to hear all their challenges and say, how do I help them with those challenges? How do we make a smaller pack? Or how do we make, if their mac and cheese recipe only needs 3 pounds, and how do we make a 3 pound pouch instead of a 4 pound pouch? How do we get rid of those process steps where they're roasting veal bones and chilling them at the end of the night, and then they're making sauce the next morning? And I like all those challenges and headaches that they're having. So they're all great sauces when I'm done with them.
Is there a trend, or from your perspective, getting to work with so many different restaurants, is there something that you see happening in the culinary world that is of interest to you at the moment?
Probably prepared foods, I would say. Unfortunately, I think prepared foods have really improved drastically over the years. And every life is crazy for everybody anymore. So the idea of even just a pasta sauce, the idea of going home and making pasta and cooking sauce, and that's not simple enough for most consumers anymore. They like the idea of throwing something together much quicker than they used to. So we are starting to do a lot of work with commissaries that are doing prepared foods. You have some big brands out there, like the health meals even, right? Where we're making the sauces for them, and they're putting them together. So they're just putting the entrees together and we're doing the sauce. I think that really is interesting right now because frozen meals and back, lean cuisine meal won't do it today. You need to have all those flavors and textures, and with a better quality prepared foods, in the frozen food section. So we do a lot of that too. We send, if you ever grab like frozen vegetables out, like a Martha Stewart's vegetable out of the frozen, if you see Kung Pao green beans, or if you see Szechuan Brussels sprouts, or if you see brown butter bourbon carrots, those are sauces we're making, and they're going to the vegetable suppliers where they're spray coating those sauces on the vegetables, freezing them so the consumer can just pull it out and go. And I think that's probably the most business that we are going after more today.
When people think of Stancatos today and 10 years from now and 20 years from now, what do you hope comes to mind for them?
It's wild because I hear that today. I can't tell you how many people say, "Oh my gosh, we got married there," or "Oh, we did this there." And I would like the next, whoever it is, takes it over, that you still hear those stories in 15, 20 years, like it's been there. It's been a legacy. It's very tough to run a legacy restaurant because people typically, they always want something, what's new and what's next, right? So how do you stay, again, relevant? And it's difficult, but that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see the kids that are, like I said, are at prom today still coming to the restaurant in 20 years.
What do you feel you've learned about leadership and managing a team of people aligned around the goal?
We have a lot of staff. Even the restaurant has, I think, 80. We're trying not to go over 90. Then the plant has 80. And working with all those personalities, whether it's the leadership team or somebody that's just starting, right? Getting to know the people and what makes people tick is probably what I like the most. I like seeing people that just start off, that knowing that they could be on the bench for the next level up, and how do we keep grooming them, and how do we keep having them grow with us so we can keep this rate of growth, right? When you're growing 20, 25% a year, it can get really challenging. So the key is to groom for bench strength. I would say that's probably my favorite part of my entrepreneur journey.
What would you tell yourself in 2005, knowing what you know today about how the journey unfolds?
Well, risk is scary, right? So the risk for me to go from 5,000 to 30,000 square foot building was scary. I wish maybe I should have been thinking even bigger then, but we are this time around.
Yeah. Were there decisions that you made that felt risky at the time, but now turned out to not be so much? Or at least they were the right decisions to have made.
Yeah, they were the right decision. They were still risky and they were the right decisions. It just took us longer to get there than, I worked the restaurant and the restaurant funded the sauce plant for many a years. Not too many people are in that position where they're working their day job and doing something at night, right? For
Yeah.
me, we rolled up our sleeves. I worked 7 days a week and we made it happen. Like I said, it took 10 years for us to really start to really know the business.
How do you think about risk today?
I would tell you today, there's risk with the software that I want to launch. That
Yeah.
right, so that I'm starting to understand, like, what risk do we want? As far as the sauce plant, now we know the business. The risk isn't there too much, right? Now to build another plant, we know the people structure, we know the vendors, we know that we even know who the customers are, right? When you started a business from the ground up, scratch, you're not only creating a brand, you're creating trying to get people to know who the brand is and who are they and can they be trusted, right? So today, the risk, I don't think about risk for the sauce plant. I know that we have all the risks covered. The software, there's a lot of risk. We're building something that the restaurant couldn't support today, just to have it for the restaurant. If we don't go out and sell it to people, there's a lot of dollars at risk at first. But I think once we have a couple customers under our belt to see if it truly does have legs, there may not be as much risk there as my first go around with starting Signature.
Right. And I have to just imagine when you make what makes them famous, you get certain evangelists from your customers that powering their business is your business, and that's the kind of engine for their success in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure. We help each other.
Right.
They're sharing a headache. I'm trying to listen to the headache and figure out how can we help them? How can we become a better partner? And sometimes that takes you into, uh, although you want to stay in your lane, sometimes it takes you into another lane for the fact that if they can't find somebody to do that, and when I say that, it could be another line, right? It could be now all of a sudden we have a PC line. We didn't want to be in portion pack machines, but you know what? Our customer needed it. There was a void there in the market. We do it. And that's sometimes difficult too, because it's hard to say no to your current customers, right?
How do you decide when to say no or yes?
Well, it's funny because I'd say 95% of our calls we say no to. It's really bizarre because, at the restaurant, coming from there, you don't say no to nothing. Everything's yes, we'll figure it out. Yes, we can do it. Yes, whatever you'd like. But at the plant, most of them are no. And it's sometimes sad for me too, for the people that do call that are looking to launch a new product. And I'm like, no, no. The decisions are based on sometimes the washouts of kettles, or there's not enough volume, or it's going to take uh, a lot of dollars up front to make sure that we nail the product. Like I was mentioning about the waste factor, and there's not enough. They're not going to sell enough product to cover those costs. And I see a lot of brands start and that are funded and last maybe a year and a half, and then they get out quickly. We say no to somebody sometimes for costing, right? It's just a product we're not interested in looking at, or if somebody doesn't call us and starts telling me in the beginning of our conversation about what makes their sauce special and the customizations of it, like I said earlier, they want the garlic bloomed, or they want Calabrian chilies from Italy, or they want
Yep, yep.
need to hear all the specialty stuff about it for because I need to get excited as well. They're not only selling me, I'm not only selling them, they have to sell me as well to say, hey, why do I want to do this with you? Are we going to work out? Are we going to work together?
Yeah,
Saying no is oddly enough, we say that often.
yeah. We can work to bookend the conversation here. Is there something you wish we had talked about?
One of the questions you asked was about wisdom advice you'd offer to aspiring food entrepreneurs. Okay, so for us, we mentioned so many people call and tell me they have their grandma's recipe, their dad's barbecue, their
Oh, yeah.
one so's product, and they'd like to go to market with it. And how do I get started? And they think they have this recipe with just a few ingredients, and you just put it in a kettle and pack away and go to market, and everybody wins. You get this how exciting to see your label on the store shelf. And unfortunately, it isn't that easy. There's a lot of grit that goes into this, and unfortunately, marketing and self-education have to be key for this, because you need to know not only what sets your product apart, because everybody's got a barbecue sauce and Italian dressing, they all have it. So what makes yours different? And then why does how are you going to sell to the buyer? The buyer gets hundreds of calls a day for people that have new products. Where's your cost per ounce going to be? Where's your costs going to be for distribution and storage and warehousing? And there's so much that goes into these new products that you really do have to look at the margin. When you say there's nothing out there like it, well, that's great, but how do you tell the story to the consumer, and how do you get that out to people? You can't just go in and do demos at stores and hope that it sells, right? So being curious about what the market has is really key. And then from there, you start off small. Everybody wants to land a 200, 300 store Giant Eagle or a Myers or a this, where they really have to get their feet wet just with boots on the ground at local stores and see how it does. And that could be delivering the cases yourself and doing the tastings and doing the marketing on social media. And there's a lot that goes into it before you start to build a food company. And I try to explain that to a lot of people in the beginning, that you need a lot of money for marketing just right up front. Forget me, I'm the easy part. Developing your formula and getting it to a safe place, that's easy. Are you ready to really go out there and push?
Yeah. Is there a pattern you've seen amongst the products that have been able to achieve real success, relative to the ones that haven't?
No, truthfully, it's there's a few that have, and they're mostly local. Like I always say, in your backyard. Just think about your backyard. There's enough here in your backyard. You don't need to go think about national. Just right here in your backyard. There's plenty. Your competition, if it's a red sauce, is hey, I can't ever compete with a ragu or a prego, right? But who can I compete against, and how can I get our taste profile out there? But yeah, there's plenty of local companies we work with, and most of them are out of state actually. They're in their local communities. They're the ones that succeed. As far as the national level, no, we don't have any customers on the national level, but all local. And not our local, like Cleveland local. I mean, like outside of, because the taste profile in Michigan, just Alfredo sauces alone, we make 30, 40 different Alfredo sauces. And guess what? Every state has a different taste profile. And it's kind of like that with pizza, right? Michigan pizza is different than Chicago. Chicago's different than New York. And then we have our own Cleveland style pizza.
Yep.
So it's nice for us. We try to work with companies that are local to that community, and we know there's a success story there.
What are you most proud of?
Oh, for me personally, yeah, I started Signature Sauces with same thing, a hope and a dream, right? We wanted to bottle our sauce and go to market, and that was extremely tough. When I launched Stancatos, we lost big time because it took on too many stores, then it wasn't moving. But for me, mine is starting Signature Sauces, a ground up company. The restaurant, although I went to school and did all this other stuff, I came back with a brick and mortar something, whether it was what it is today or not. I had something to get started with, right? Got the plant, we started from ground up. No name, no brand recognition. Today,
Quite a journey.
hearing the calls come into us is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I have to imagine it is. So I'll ask then some closing questions here. I can't ask you for your favorite sauces, so I feel like this one's kind of like that one. But what would you plug as favorite restaurants in Ohio?
Oh my gosh, come on! I work with some of the best restaurateurs in Ohio. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I don't have a favorite. It depends what I'm in the mood for, and then if I'm doing my own studying, right? Even if it's Italian, right? And some of these guys I work with, but it could be, Cameron Mitchell has restaurants, all types of restaurants, right? He's also a customer. But sometimes it could be a taco concept where I'm going not only to Barrio, but maybe one of its competitors because I want to see if there's anything that we should be doing that we're not. So I eat out quite a bit, but it's typically for learning, mostly learning purposes. I don't have like a favorite. Oh, you'll find me there spot. I drift quite a bit.
Yeah. Do you still like to cook?
Oh yeah, I love cooking. Yeah, I love cooking. I don't have enough time for it, truthfully, but yeah, and I love cooking in my own restaurant still. Yeah.
Well, we can bookend it there. If folks had anything they wanted to follow up with about, they wanted to go to Stancatos, they wanted to learn more about Signature, where would you point them?
But I tell even the people that are always, looking to acquire us, I tell them, I go, if you really want to acquire us, you know where to find me. I'm at their restaurants 7 days a week.
That's true. Just go to the restaurant.
There, like you don't need to email me that I'm going to delete it or, leave me voicemails.
Just come to the restaurant.
Yeah. We're not looking to sell though, but so don't waste your time.
Well, a plug for Stancatos is a perfect way to end it.
Okay.
Barry, I just want to thank you very much. I know this is not something you do often, and I very much appreciate you taking the time and sharing your thoughts and reflections on the whole journey.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ohio Fund Report. If you enjoyed this podcast, we'd love for you to leave a review on your favorite platform and subscribe to stay updated on all future episodes. You can subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or directly on our website at theohiofund.com. The information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, an offer to sell, or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Past performance is not indicative of future results. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are solely their own and do not necessarily represent those of the Ohio Fund. A guest's participation in this podcast does not imply an endorsement or an investment recommendation by the Ohio Fund. This podcast may include conversations with leadership of a company in which the Ohio Fund or its affiliated funds have an investment, and as such, financial interest in the success of this company, and there may be a conflict of interest in presenting information about the company and its performance. Any forward-looking statements or projections discussed during this episode are based on current expectations, assumptions, and estimates. Actual outcomes may differ materially due to a variety of risks, uncertainties, and other factors. Listeners should consult their own legal, tax, and financial advisors before making any investment decisions. For more information about the Ohio Fund, including our Form ADV, other regulatory filings, and additional conversations, please visit theohiofund.com.